New film by Neil Blomkamp, who directed District 9 and then Elysium, which, interestingly enough, I liked Elysium. I think there were problems with it. Blomkamp himself has recently sort of said very publicly that he thinks he messed Elysium up. And it's interesting to hear a director speak so frankly about a project that's still in the kind of relatively recent past. Anyway, in the case of Chappie, back to the sort of the to some extent the more familiar territory of District 9, set in near future South Africa, where Dev Patel has invented a form of law enforcement droid. His droids are called scouts, and they basically walk the mean streets carrying out policing duties. But obviously, like RoboCop, the difference is, well, actually not, because RoboCop is part man, part thing. These are all completely droids. And Hugh Jackman is meanwhile working on a sort of rival project, which is called the Moose. And the Moose, if you've seen RoboCop, actually, if you've seen either version of RoboCop, the Moose is like the great big lumbering assault vehicle robot that features particularly at the very in the original version. It's the one that runs rampant in the bureaucratic office.
The Moose actually goes loose about the hoose.
There was a moose loose about this hoose. Well, I believe
Lord Rockingham's
I believe in that song. It's a mouse. I mean, it is. He says moose, but obviously it means moose. It means hat. Anyway, so moving on. So Dev Patel, meanwhile, is an AI genius, and he's been working on trying to upgrade his creation to something which has consciousness. And what do you know? He strikes gold, and he goes to tell his superior, Sigourney Weaver. Here's a clip.
Morning, Dion.
All right, let's have it. What are you proposing now?
I think I've cracked it. The world's first proper, full artificial intelligence. This is a computer system that might be smarter than a human. I could show it a piece of art, and the stainless being could judge that art. It could decide if it liked it. It could write music and poetry.
Stop, please, Dion. Do you realize you just came to the CEO of a publicly traded weapons corporation and pitched a robot that can write poems?
I could see, even whilst you were watching that, you were sort of drifting off into that reverie of when you had your flirty encounter with Sigourney Weaver, who is now your favourite guest on the programme, Evs,
no,
right?
This is all entirely your fantasy.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, so he's managed to create this artificial intelligence. He's then kidnapped, as indeed are the constituent parts of the droid, which are put together to the first fully artificially intelligent droid, which is now owned by two gangsters played by Ninja and Yo-Landi Visa, who are in fact rappers known very well known in South Africa, and they are gangsters. And essentially what happens is that when the droid first starts up, it's like a baby, it's like a child. It doesn't know anything, and it has to learn. It has this brain which is like a sponge. And so they become its surrogate family. They become his mummy and daddy, and he has to learn about the world from them. And much of the movie is then teaching the kind of the gangster way, how to walk, how to talk, how to fire a gun, how to this basically essentially innocent robot that keeps saying, I can't shoot people, I can't do heists, I'm not programmed to do that sort of stuff. And they have to go, well, Chappie, it's a difficult world, you have to play them. So the story, I mean, to some extent, there's a Pinocchio element in this, which is innocent, lost in the wild world. Some people have made references to AI, and others, I suppose, to Ex Machina, which has been out in cinemas recently. To me, I think the closest thing it comes to is that it's a cross between RoboCop and Short Circuit. And you may remember Short Circuit with the military droid, which is hit by lightning and then suddenly becomes super intelligent. And in a way, that's the strength and the failure of the film. The film is fun. The way in which Sharlto Copley plays the central character, Chappie, which is played by what he describes as a sort of low-rent version of motion capture that he performed, and then it's animated afterwards. But I mean, it is essentially motion capture. And he's funny, and the physicality of it is good, and that's quite an intriguing character. Although you yourself said you compared him to Jar Jar Binks, I thought he was more like a sort of slightly crazed C-3PO than Jar Jar Binks, which I'm very glad about, because frankly, when you said the Jar Jar Binks words, all my hackles went up, and I immediately thought, I'm never going to... So having gone into the film, having had you tell me that, I was delighted to say I didn't think he was Jar Jar Binks, anything like In the League as Jar Jar Binks. I thought it was more like a teenage version of C-3PO. The problem with the film, however, is in many ways encapsulated in that thing that it's Short Circuit meets RoboCop, is that on the one hand, it has these sort of sweet, innocent fairy tale elements which may well appeal to younger viewers, but it's much too sweary and much too violent for them. On the other hand, it has these guns and explosions and action sequences which, you know, play very well to the kind of, you know, the older teenage audience, but it also has this sort of slightly sweet, slightly saccharine, slightly, I think, what you think is grating, because when you say Jar Jar Binks, that's what you mean, element which plays too young. So it ends up falling between two stools. And it does look to me like a film which is struggling to define its tone. It is tonally all over the place. And as a result of it struggling to define its tone, it's also struggling to define its target audience. So I think there are things in it that are interesting. I was kind of charmed by that central performance, and it's absolutely the case that Neil Blomkamp knows how to get that sense of location, the grime, the grit, the Mad Maxi sense of that desolate gangster wasteland. He gets all that very good. And when the action sequences come, they are huge, and it is huge, big rockets firing things and big robots, all that explosion stuff that you get. But the film never quite decides which way it wants to go. It does look to me like they've gone through various assemblies and various edits of it, making it play younger, making it play older, and in the end they haven't quite decided where it should fall. So it's flawed. It's not terrible. I mean, I know some people have really not liked it. I don't think it's terrible. I think it's interesting and fun up to a point, but I think it's a film which absolutely doesn't quite know to whom it is playing, and as a result ends up as an intriguing failure with some nice moments.